Welcome. Today is Friday. Oh, I just lost my note. That's great. Hold on. That is awesome. Hi, everyone who is live with our podcast today. Um, Today is Friday, March 7th, 2025, and we are live. Welcome to the Three Things with Dr. B. At the TheMuDojo, we believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and we are ultimately intimately connected to one another, sometimes in a way we cannot explain. Therefore, as we are having a conversation live today about the three things, we must recognize that we don't always know what we don't know. And in particular, we cannot anticipate the type of, might I say, positive impact we may have on someone else. And no, you don't need to be famous or make millions of dollars or have written books that are New York bestsellers to make a difference to others. And that's why we are here today. The TheMuDojo is about having live conversations with good humans. The good human I have today on my podcast, my special guest is Nathalie Duhaime. We could do the whole podcast in French, but we're going to do it in English just so that you can hear it anyway. My friend Nathalie is an outstanding photographer. She has decided to live the van life and has actually crossed the United States a few times. We're going to hear about that, making pictures, connecting with people, and living the life with her dog, Henri. Welcome, Nathalie.
Thank you.
Such a
Thank you
pleasure.
very much for the invitation.
Yes. So, as you know, this is about the three things. And the first thing, and I think we're going to spend quite a bit of time on that today, is serendipity. What events, and this is, I like to say, when I used to interview people in the corporate world, one thing I used to say was, okay, you're here today in front of me to interview for this job, but there are significant events in your life that have led you to this moment today. That's what I call serendipity. So I will turn to you, Nathalie, so that you tell us a little bit what you mean by, what does that mean to you, serendipity, and what are those critical events that you and I have gone through to be here today?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Beatrice. Um, the I guess the main subject that links you and I, or the person, should I say, is my brother Sebastian, younger brother of 21 months younger than me, and my brother worked and lived in Paris, where at that time you also lived, and were a doctor.
That's right.
So my brother was a dancer at Moulin Rouge. He was real a magnificent dancer, beautiful human being, and he had this charisma that I always enjoyed and loved
Can
being.
I show a picture? Can I show
Yes,
a
of
picture?
course. Go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah, this is Sebastian.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So Sebastian was in Paris. He had been there, I think, for many years, and at some point, Sebastian was diagnosed with AIDS. Um, those years, the medication was not what it is today, and his uh, health diminished quite quickly. And so he was part of a program at the hospital where Beatrice worked at, Pitié Salpêtrière, the hospital in Paris. So I would accompany, when I was in Paris, I would accompany my friend, my brother, to the hospital and all that. And well, Sebastian passed away on January the 9th, 1994. And
2 years before we would have sufficient medications to take him out of that situation.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So his passing away was really difficult for me. as he was somehow um, a, um, a figure I looked at, because this human being lived his passion like you wouldn't believe. Like, he left for Paris, with nothing, and a few dollars here and there. Was invited to stay with some friends, but he had that passion. It just followed it. It gave him energy. It Anyway, he was happy. I could tell when I would see him, and even more when I would see him dance on stage.
Hmm.
It was amazing, amazing time.
Yeah, and I never had that chance because when I met Sebastian, as you said, it was around the period where he was deep into AIDS,
Yeah,
but I could still see his kindness and his genuine, authentic human being
yeah,
that was just a beautiful person and with a deep sense of kindness and connection
mm,
um and personal growth, like constant learning and constant improvement and questioning things. And yes, it was a an interesting, I'm not going to go too much into that, but it was an interesting, let me say, doctor patient relationship because I connected so well with him and his friends, and then the family came over. Natalie, you came, and I
mm,
met everybody. And this Canadian family, I was born in Canada as well, so I was feeling a little bit more synchronized with you guys, and you welcomed me into your
hmm
family as well. So it was reciprocal. So we managed things in terms of the patient doctor relationship, but that's how we met. So that was long time ago.
yeah. We were saying yesterday, probably 1995, so something like 30 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was 1994, so it's been more than 30 years
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that gives us a little bit of a
Of link.
time frame. We're not gonna go too much into that.
No, no, no. But we
So
kept
okay,
in
so
touch.
then what happened then?
Well, what happened then? I went back to home, Quebec, province of Quebec. Um, I but I felt really depressed. I wasn't seeing, everything was black. But before I I I remember one day, I think it was January the 2nd. My mom and I had flown to Paris to be with him, and he's in the bed lying, and he turns around and says to me, I'm sure I know I'm gonna die, but I have no regrets. I've lived my life fully. And
Mhm.
to me, that struck me so hard, because all of my life I had not been the person enjoying life, being happy, being
Mm,
who I am. And so when I went back to Quebec, I didn't feel good. Like, everything was black. I even thought at some point of, the pain inside, the uncomfortable situation I was in was so big that, at some point I even thought maybe ending it would be a
mhm,
solution.
mhm.
And I'm happy I didn't. Real happy. Like, I was,
That moment when Sebastian told you this, that was a pivot point. It was kind of a sort of realization, something
yeah,
needs to happen. Either I have to end it or I have to do something about it.
true, true.
Mhm,
Yeah, yeah. And you know, maybe to sort of put things in perspective, um, all of my life I was who people wanted me to be.
mhm,
And I wanted to be loved. So the everything around me, I would make it work so that people would love me and I would be what society would expect of me. But as a young child, I knew something was not right. I knew that um, I wasn't happy. And when I
Mm.
say not happy, it's very not happy. Um,
And
I
how old were
remember,
you when you remember how far how old were you when you realized that?
of course, first grade, like, so you're what? You're six
Yeah, something like that.
at that time. I knew something wasn't right. I didn't know quite what. Um, and it, 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 I used to, go down in the basement and, there were girls' clothing and I would put them on and I'd be happy. But every time I would take it off, I'd feel bad. I'd feel
Mm.
ashamed. This is not what my parents expected.
So
So
you feel bad not just because you're out of these clothes, but because you did this, and you're like, but
there's
that
shame.
wait, that's
Yeah,
not what they expect me to do.
yeah.
Mhm.
And as I grew older, that shame was always there. And on top of that, I would say that um, my own judgment of myself was really bad. Like I would say to myself, "You're sick." If
Right.
you express that, they're probably going to put you in a mental institution.
Hmm. And when I met
So
you, you
yeah,
had you had a life, maybe a life that people expected of you. You were married.
true. Yeah,
You had a good job. Your
yeah,
wife had a
yeah,
good job. Everything was, looked pretty good from the outside.
yeah, yeah. And deep down inside, I was playing. I had a mask on,
Hmm.
and I. But when Sebastian left, it was a wake up call. It
Hmm.
was, are you going to continue like that through your life? And it's it was how should I say, Sebastian going away, leaving, dying. I see it that way. He gave me life,
Mm. Wow.
and to me, it's the most precious gift he gave me. Which to me is I thank him every day. Like he's not far away. Like we were talking about van life.
Hmm.
Well, my van is called Seb for Sebastian.
That's
So
right.
he's he's part of my freedom, my happiness, and and I must say I am happy.
Hmm.
I made the right decisions, and things weren't easy, but that's okay. I think the whole process was really worth it, really. And we kept in touch. You
We
came
did.
to Montreal after my transition, and
Yeah.
yeah,
I came to Montreal, so I came after your transition, and we that's when we really reconnected, and I remember we sat down at that coffee shop and we talked for hours. Um, but I also remember that I came during your transition,
yeah.
and I came to your mom's house, and you had gone back to your mom's house at the time. And it was difficult for you. I could see how much challenging
Hmm.
that was, and probably not just because of all the things you need to go through, which you detailed for me afterwards, in terms of medical procedures and medication and tons of different things and potential side effects. Um, but this constant, the look of the other, like this constant, what are they thinking about me, or even yourself looking over, right?
Mhm.
Saying, what am I
Yeah,
thinking about myself?
yeah, yeah,
Um, and obviously, I mean, the whole midst of this, you also lost your dad.
yeah, yeah.
I don't remember exactly the timing for it, but it was very a turmoil time
It
for
was,
you, and I
my
could
dad
feel.
passed away. Yeah, he
And
passed
we
away
were
3 years.
we were not that close yet, right? But I
No,
was I was I was so feeling connected to Sebastian, and
mhm,
that connection I had with you and the rest of the family. Every time I had an occasion to go to Montreal, I would come and I would go and visit you.
yeah,
Um, and it was really hard to see all that in process, things that were happening. But then I don't remember how we reconnected, but I decided to come back to Montreal and we reconnected that day. And then you told me everything. And I
yeah.
learned so much from you that day. And maybe you can summarize what people would need to know, maybe, about people who transition and how hard it is.
Yeah, I transitioned back in 1998 to just to put things in context.
Yeah, yeah.
So we wouldn't talk too much about transitioning, about, gender dysphoria.
No one did at the
Um,
time.
so today, thank God, it's more open. There are people who come out and who are public.
Hmm.
But the process is very, very difficult. At least the path I chose. I did psychotherapy. I did group therapy. There was also all those surgeries that followed afterwards,
Hmm.
and then you go through transition. That's your real life test where you see, am I strong? Am I okay with myself? Am I feeling good? Am I feeling right?
Hmm.
Which those are all things that I'm glad I went through, and really, um, it made me a better person. And whether I like it or not, having a past where I'm not who I am, having done things that people expected me to do, leaves traces. Like I end up with all kinds of traumas, whether they're
Hmm.
small or they're big, but
Hmm.
those things I need to take care of before actually going through surgery.
Right. So how did you manage that?
Well, um, I had a psychologist who I would see once a week. I had group therapy, which I would see once a month. And to not help you, or that they make it hard. They want to
Mm.
say, if you're going to go through life, um, we won't help you. We'll be there. We'll listen to you, and we'll take care and look at your traumas and all of that. But, like, just to give you an example, I transitioned in 1998 without hormone therapy,
Mhm.
which
Wow.
left many of my masculine features more prominent
Mhm.
than so.
And why is that?
Well,
Because they did not support you in that way, or?
no, they're thinking, at least the gender clinic identity I went to, they're saying, as soon as I get hormone therapy, it's like, I know I feel better. I know I'm happier. I know that things are happening to my body, my skin,
Uh-huh.
my breast, and all that. So it puts me in a place where I can no longer go where it hurts, things I need to take care of.
Mm. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was their theory then.
Wow.
Mhm. Yeah. It's like, you know,
So we're doing this for your good because you need to manage all the stuff first, and the hormone
yeah,
therapy is going to mask it, and it's not good for you.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
they give
So,
you the hormone therapy when, you know, they decide it's okay. So and they decide it's okay. You're in front of a panel, like there's a psychiatrist, the sexologist, the psychologist, and then they decide it's okay. You've worked enough, and you're balanced as a human being, you know, and I think it's going to help you then. Same thing happens when you have surgery, but because I was the program was part of a hospital, which was a university program, like it's a
mhm.
hospital related to a university. So my last interview was um, in a large class. You know, the classes where the seats are going around and
Oh,
up,
amphitheater. Yeah, like
amphitheater.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So students are there, and the same team is over there interviewing you.
What?
Yeah.
That's insane.
I think they're
I
in
mean,
their mind.
and they're saying we're trying to preserve you from trauma, but they put you in front of a whole bunch of students to have an interview with you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's insane.
It's back then. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But still, and I think looking back, um, it made me stronger.
Mhm.
Definitely, because when I left, because I stayed in the program for another year to just to be help to help others that were coming in,
Oh, that's
um, which you know make lots of sense. But when I left the program and all that, I felt strong. I felt well. I felt, you know, who I am. I know I am now,
right.
and I don't need to please anyone because I want to be loved. You know, I'm
Mhm.
thinking more. I want to love myself,
It's self-love,
be a better
yes.
person, so I can be helpful to others.
And when I met you at that point in Montreal, you were beaming, you were happy, you were full of energy. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
really good
yeah.
to see you. Yeah.
I relived, you know, Sebastian leaving with his experience, leaving with his life, was a gift,
Mhm.
a gift, really. And I, like I said earlier, I thank him for that.
Yeah.
It was,
So serendipity, we're still on that theme.
mhm,
Lots of things have happened since 1998 to
yeah.
now. So what else are key one of these key milestones for you to be here now?
Well, you know, having bought the van because Sebastian was my it and still is my inspiration. His passion is liberty he lived, and you know a passion I had, and fortunately, like it's photography.
Mhm.
It and I started doing photography. I borrowed a friend's camera back in, I think it was 1978 or something like that. So we're
Uh-huh.
doing film, and I'm going to see my brother in Paris, and I go crazy
Again, Sebastian is
again.
there as a key
He's
milestone in
there.
your life.
Yeah, he's the link to all of that, and I'm enjoying so much the scenery, the buildings, the history, the people, everything. It's like I'm looking at something, a new world that I never seen. So I come back after that trip with I can't remember how many hundreds of slides because it was cheaper to do slides than to
That's right.
actually buy a film and have it developed. So I did slides, and afterwards I bought my camera for my own. kept on doing photography. At some point, some friend who would do weddings asked me, "Would you mind doing weddings for me?" Which I did
Uh-huh.
a couple of years. Then people were coming back and saying, "We want you to do our wedding photographer because you did my cousin or you did my sister."
Hmm.
And it went on and on and on, and it got bigger like that. I had my own studio back in Buckingham, little town in Quebec, and bought equipment, went on. So that photography has been um, my it's I need that every day. I need to create. I need to be amazed by nature. I need to, and then, having the van permitted me to travel to see landscapes, I still look at my pictures and I have, goosebumps and because I remember the time I was there. I remember the
Hmm.
sound. I remember the smell. Even I can close my eyes because when I'm in front of something so beautiful um, in
It's not
nature,
just a photography anymore. It's a memory. It's
it's
a
memories.
whole
Like,
the
yeah,
whole
yeah,
picture.
yeah. If I'm feeling something in front of something I'm photographing, and I can capture that emotion that I have and put it back in a picture,
Yeah.
and hopefully people can have that little emotion
Yeah.
to themselves. I've done a great job.
Right. And I can say that that's exactly what's happening because we were looking at some of your photos last night and it's just amazing.
Thank you.
Um I think we've already kind of segued into thing number 2 here. I want
Okay.
to share also what Natalie's website is so that you can all go and look at these wonderful photos. And you have multiple themes. You don't always it's not just landscapes or just animals or just people. You do a lot of different things. So tell us about the themes that you have covered so far.
Yeah. Well, um, and because when I ended my let's say my day job, like when I retired from the Canadian public servant, I went back to school and took a 15-month commercial photography course,
Mm.
which
But you were already a professional photographer.
I
I
was,
mean,
I was,
right?
but I needed to expand. Like I never done food photography,
Mhm.
where there was a session for that. I had done portraits, I had done landscape, I had done commercial work, editorial work, and corporate. But those little things, plus I started off with film. So now I'm in a world where
Of
everything is digital.
virtual digital photography.
So I have software that I probably need to use more,
Mhm.
and I've learned in that program a lot,
Really
which
exciting.
expanded my creativity because not only do I take a picture, but I take a picture with an intent of maybe what I want it to look like.
Yeah. So you leave that job.
Yeah,
You did a few things, but you went back into that training. When
yeah,
do you decide to buy a motorisé, how we call it
yeah,
in Canadian,
yeah,
a van,
yeah.
and go out there? I mean, it's crazy. How did you start this?
Well, while
By
I'm at
yourself?
yeah,
Yeah.
while I was in college, uh, learning the commercial photography um, program, I went to an exhibition. Like, because every time people finish the program, there's a exhibition where they
A
show
contest
their
or yeah, an exhibition, yes.
exhibition. Okay,
Mhm.
so
Or exhibit
everybody's
because
invited. to go there. So I went, and I saw this lady who had made some pictures of veterans, Canadian veterans, and I was really touched
Oh.
by what she had done. I was driving back and asking myself, what motivates a human being to go there, to make a life choose, and to at some point maybe even put their lives at risk.
Hmm.
I just continued. My reflection went on, and I was, why weren't there any women part of
Hmm.
that exhibition? So I started researching, to find out that women in the forces have very little space in the media.
Hmm.
So we know very little about what they do, and unfortunately, um, their transition from civil to military, then to military to civil again, especially that last part, is very hard for them.
Mm.
Um, they're not seen by population the same way they see men who are now veterans. So the statistics show that, you know, in comparison to men veteran, that much a greater portion of them have difficulty finding a job afterwards
Mm.
because they're not recognized the same way. Um, and there's, they live under the cost of living. There's a lot, I think, that needed to be told. So
Hmm.
my reaction was, well, I'll get a van. I'll get, and I'll photograph landscape like I love to do, but my traveling has brought me to, and that project I started thinking about it back in 2018. So it took me many years to actually
Wow.
get out, and at least, my project, and I still want to do it, but I don't know when or where and all that. I want to photograph veteran women and have an exhibition. I do also want, I'm doing interviews and photographic portraits of them, and I want to have an exhibition, large prints of them, probably all black and white, and an
Mm.
audio guide so that people who come over listen to that lady explaining her
Oh,
story,
that's awesome.
and hopefully the media will pick up and will understand a little bit more of
And you
those women.
said, I think you wanted that exhibit to happen in New York City
Yeah,
originally.
yeah, yeah,
We'll see if that's the right city in the moment or not.
yeah,
Um, but this is a wonderful vision. And I know you've been doing a lot of work and pre-work on this and reaching out to female veterans in the United States and in Canada. And
yeah.
it's not always easy to find those candidates, the people that you are going to interview. Is there a particular message you would like to send out to female veterans listening to us in case they see you today?
Well, my first message would be, if you're not well, reach out,
Mm,
get help. It's there, it exists.
yeah.
Because, in my research, I realized, how much those women are hurting. Um, and in the meantime, I say to whoever knows of a veteran, a neighbor, whatever, go talk to them. Say hi.
Mm,
Make the first step. I think, um, and having felt that, when you're not well, you're not feeling good, you isolate yourself,
yeah.
and that's going totally against. trying to feel better.
Yeah, and sometimes just a little outreach in the store, a smile in the street can
Yeah,
make, or a thank you for your service can make a
yeah,
huge
yeah,
difference.
definitely, definitely. So that would be my message, and having, being different, being a trans woman, um, sort of um, connects me to, um, I feel more, and I empathy and compassion towards people
Hmm.
who suffer, who have suffered, and I think my main goal in life is to find happiness.
Yes.
So it,
So
it,
that's
it
the purpose. Find happiness.
and at this point in my life, um, my purpose is to be happy, to find happiness, and also help others find happiness.
Yeah.
It to me, it's crucial.
Yeah. And there's so many ways you're doing it. But your photos definitely, I wish we had PDF some of your photos to put them
Mm.
in here, but at the same time, it would be a little bit distracting because they would be there. They are so outstanding
Yes,
that
thank you.
I think people would just want to just continue watching them instead of listening to us.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I encourage everyone to look at your website because you have
yeah,
a good collection of some of your very good photos. Um, I mean, you came so we'll talk about this a little later, but your most recent trip has been to Florida, and you have shown me some amazing photos of some animals.
birds.
So
Yeah,
and also a one that's been a little bit earlier than that. Tell us a little bit about those two examples because it's just so amazing how there's serendipity in photography
yeah, yeah.
in a
Well,
way.
I'm in one of my road trips. I went to the eastern coast of Canada. So my van is parked on the beach, and at that time I had a friend with me, and we were both talking outside of the van. The sun is setting to our right, and out of nowhere, this red fox comes out of the long grass, and he's looking at us, and he's sitting like, it's like, look, and he had probably a mouse or something like that in his mouth, and he really looked happy because he had something to eat, his lunch and all that, and he just stared at us like if he wanted us to be looking at him, how proud he was. So I actually went back in the van, got my camera, came out, and he still was there. So I was able to photograph him, and because he was there, I was there, the sun was in the right position to give me light in his eyes, like incredible, like if they were gonna pop out,
Yeah.
texture, along everything, even the thing that he had in his mouth. And I was blessed. Like, we were all there, and this moment happened, and I was able to capture it
That's
and to share it,
yeah.
uh,
That's really
with
what I call serendipity because you could imagine all these different things that could happen that would
yeah,
not make that moment
yeah,
realize itself.
yeah,
And then in Florida, you also took some pictures of certain birds, and it's I still don't. You told me how you
yeah,
take those photos of birds, but I mean, I wish every you're gonna put those in your website at some point, I guess.
yes, yes,
I wish people can really have a look at this because it's just amazing how you can have just that one shot. So tell us about that bird sticking off on the
yeah.
tree.
A pink spoon or something like that. Like, um, because when I leave on a road trip, I make sure that in my itinerary, I know where I'm gonna stop. I've researched where the wildlife will be. Like this time around was wildlife, so I knew there was a wildlife refuge here or there, and I researched the birds that were I could look at or try to find. And so this bird came, and those birds are big, like, and they have long legs, but they're all pink. And when they put their wings up there, it must be 6 or 7 feet long, and they have this beak that goes out, and at the end there's a spoon.
Like it's flat at the end. It's like a
It's
little.
flat at the end, and then probably use that to feed in the water.
Hmm.
So this bird came on, and because they fly into the trees, and because they're so big, like they all go kind of wacky wacky, and so he stayed there a while, and I knew at some point he was going to take off. So you just wait and wait and wait, and all of a sudden I see the wings. He's sort of preparing. So I know then, I'm already probably shooting,
Uh-huh.
many frames a second, so that I've got the perfect frame. So he just went back out, and I was fortunate. Like it's
That's amazing.
another gift for me, to have been there, and for him to give me that I don't know. It looked almost like a dance because
Yeah.
he has so long legs. Like when he sort of becomes to fly, he's like a dancer. Like he's just going very
Yeah.
slowly and very. It's amazing. It's not only amazing to photograph them, but it's also amazing to see them,
Yeah.
how they
I,
interact.
I'm amazed also, technically speaking, with the fact that even if you do click, 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 and you shoot a lot of pictures, you
Yeah,
still need to be framed correctly. You still need, I mean, you're probably far away with long objective, long zoom.
yeah,
It needs to be not blurry, it needs to be sharp. So there's so many components that come into the picture. And that
yeah.
leads me to the other component of that, which is not the technicality, but the serendipity piece, which is
Mm,
all these you create it in a way, but you still need to have the universe work with you. Like
yeah,
there's so many parameters that need to happen, and
yeah.
it's because they all synchronize at the same time, it becomes that magic of the universe, and
Mhm,
it's beyond the technicality, and it's beyond the materialistic aspect of it,
yeah,
and then that's the weird thing about photography. Then you pour all of this in that photo, and when we look at it, we feel all that. It's a message. It's like a message through space and time. You know.
yeah, yeah. Definitely, it's photography is capturing a moment in time, that will never come back.
Yes,
Our
and
lives are
it kind
the
of
same thing.
crystallizes you in that time, in that moment, in the
Yeah,
here and
yeah,
now.
yeah. So today, this present time, we're here. Um, Later on, we'll be somewhere else, and that's how we should live. The present
Yeah.
moment. That's the only one we
Yeah.
have access to, and that's where
Right.
I find my happiness. It's not in the future. It's definitely not in the past, and it's real. It's now and then. And yeah,
And
it's
that's a very interesting segue to the third thing, which is, so now we got to know you a little bit more,
yeah,
and we understand your purpose to be
yeah,
happy and to help others be
yeah,
happy.
yeah,
Now, in terms of humanity, is there one message that you would like to share with, if the entire world was listening to you, and that, and that would make a difference, what is
Yeah,
that message you would want people to do or be or think, that would make the world a better place?
yeah. I've studied Buddhism,
Mhm.
Buddhism,
Yeah.
and I've learned a lot about myself
Hmm.
and about the link that we all have,
The
um,
connection, we're all
the
connected.
connections and all that, and it's definitely um, guides me in my everyday decisions, actions, even thoughts,
Hmm.
that um, I am responsible for my happiness, but anything I do will affect others around me. So my choices in action, talking, thinking are all going towards the people outside around me and those people who be in touch with other people and other people. And once I'm no longer in this life,
Mm.
my actions and what I did, my photos will live after me.
Right. Right.
And I think if my actions are good, if my intent and my actions are good, um, all I'm doing is giving good to the people around me and the people around them, and so on and so on. So I
Yeah.
think being conscious of that um, makes it, and also makes you understand a little bit more the people who suffer,
Fashion.
because we've all suffered, and I'm still going to suffer because
Hmm.
nothing's permanent. And I know that. But I know also because it's not permanent, my suffering will probably go away
Hmm.
and come back again. It's it's life, and uh, the attitude, the way I respond to those situations makes a lot of difference in my happiness.
Absolutely. So you said something when we prepared together, that the message is basically be who you really are.
Yeah,
And so tell us a little bit more about that. What does that mean? Who am I? I mean,
yeah,
sometimes people might, be who you really are. Like,
hmm,
some people might be in a stage of their life where they would be, well, I don't know who I am. So how
true.
can I be who I really are? So how do you find that space? Because
Wow,
you did your
yeah,
own adventure to get to that
yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's one thing that I know will never lie to me, and it's my body.
Hmm.
So if I'm doing something that, whether I'm aware of it or not, something that is not okay for me, my body tells me.
Mm,
I get aches, I get s- difficulty breathing and all that. So to me, every day, every moment, to being in contact with my body is a good guide. It's my best guide
mm-hmm.
to actually stop and say, okay, why am I feeling that way? Um, and just those little steps you can take towards connecting with your body will eventually guide you to your through you, who you are.
So
Uh,
what do you do personally to ground yourself?
well, I do meditation, um, and breathing exercises, and really, I have a journal
Hmm.
every morning. I write in my journal, so it's a time for me. re-go back what happened yesterday and how I felt, and probably trying to figure out, what I felt, why it was like that. And it's something happy and something not necessarily happy, but I'm not judging myself. It's just going there.
I
It's
love that.
I just put it in the book, and I rarely go back and read it.
Hmm.
So I've got a
But this
few
is
books.
so, what you said just there is so important, is to not judge yourself. Because, as you said also, the thoughts that you have are so critical and important for your well-being.
Yeah,
And if you start in your journal to criticize yourself, to judge yourself, journal all your thoughts,
yeah,
you just harm yourself a little bit more
hmm,
every day.
yeah,
So this is so powerful.
yeah. And in the long run, I would say it's so easy at some point to be yourself because you don't have to play games.
Mm,
You don't have to pretend to be somebody else.
yeah.
You're just who you are. And being who you are and accepting that at some point becomes um, part of nature of who you are. And people around me who at some point may have judged me, today I know I wasn't the problem.
Mm,
It was me reflecting on them
yeah.
that was the issue. So, and that I have no control over.
Hmm.
So, being who I am, uh, acting in that matter, it at some point it just relieves so much pressure that no one needs. No one needs, because it's taking your energy away. And in the long run, like I did part of my life, I forgot me.
Mm,
I really was the worst person towards me. It's
yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and we don't need that, and it's so easy because I know I have control over me. I don't know if I have control over you,
Hmm.
or anyone else, but
Yeah. When people are not at that stage of being grounded with themselves,
mhm,
they will tend to point fingers on the outside.
yeah,
And so the more you think that your happiness will depend on certain conditions and circumstances that are not under your control, then you basically you basically give up that control, and you let those circumstances dictate how you
yeah,
must feel, how you must be, who you must, how you must
mm,
act, who you must be. And then on top of that, we do the self-talk and we punish ourselves for it. So it's like it's a horrible dark spiral. And I've seen so much of you evolving towards this beautiful stage of your life where you have that groundedness and you have this authenticity and you're happy.
I
And
am.
then you're living this van life.
Hmm.
And you mentioned it a little bit earlier. You said two things. You said that you were traveling alone. You're not traveling alone. So
No,
let's
I'm
talk
not.
about Henri.
I've got Henri, which is
You do
my
that.
my
Who
he
is Henri? Tell us a little bit.
Henri is an Australian Shepherd. He's going to be, well, he is already 3 years old. He's a very good traveling partner.
Hmm.
He's funny because we have all those things that we do every day. So it's like a routine, him and I.
Ah, you need to have
Yeah,
rituals when you're in a
we
van.
do. We
Yeah.
have, and it's funny because and he's always there. I can talk to him. He doesn't necessarily give me good advice, but he's there, and I know that he's always looking after me. Uh,
Mm.
Something happens around the van. We're stopped, and he hears something. He'll just go a little bit, and so to tell, something's maybe happening around.
Hmm.
But he's lively. He wants to play. He brings me back to the present moment,
Yes.
um, because that's where he is
Yeah.
all the
That's
time.
what dogs do. Yeah.
We go out, we walk, he stops, he smells the grass or the fire hydrant, and it's my cue to also look around, smell, feel the sun on my skin. Like
Hmm.
there's so many things in the present time that he's having, and why shouldn't I have the same thing?
Yeah, that's awesome. There's another thing you said is that Sebastian is always with you.
He is.
And in fact, there is something that you use during your on your truck, and I uploaded it as we were talking.
Okay.
And this is this.
Yeah,
This is your plate. This is your front plate.
that's right. That's right.
So tell us about this drawing.
It's from um, the book that you get when you go to the Moulin Rouge. Like it's not a catalog, but it tells about the artists who did the choreography and all that. So it's really a nice quality book, and but you probably have to buy it. I think I didn't because Sebastian was working there, but
Mhm.
still the so the top part, um well, the left part is the top of the that show, which is called Frénésie, and Frénésie was the last show, and shows over in the Moulin Rouge, they go for years. They just redo them. So Frénésie, it was the show that I saw him dance.
Mhm.
So to me, it was important to have that reflect of who he was and the life he had. So the red part is just the bottom part of that book, and Seb is Sebastian.
And it's his handwriting, right?
It is, yeah, because
Yeah.
I wanted to be so personal. I have things of him at home, photos and his agendas he writes on and all that. And I had I think it's a bank deposit slip
Mhm.
that he had kept for I don't know what reason. So I actually took the Sebastian Duhaime and I recreated the Seb the way he wrote it.
Nice.
So this there is his writing.
Yeah, and it's your plate for your truck.
It
It's
is, and
really
and
really
I'd
amazing.
like to say that that plate was done by a special person, someone who has so much talent and and qualities like I don't I can't start where to go with, but the your Dr. B, my Beatrice, is the one who actually made the plate. She went into so much work, so much detail. Like if you were to see it in real life, you'd go, "Why? Those pearls around the dancer's
Yeah.
neck? They're actually dots that she cut off using a laser printer.
Mhm.
She put all of that together. She went
Yeah.
through. I don't dare to ask, but many hours.
I didn't count the hours.
No,
It was my pleasure to go into this project, and it was a long project, but it was, as we talked about, being in the moment.
yeah,
Every time as I was working on these vectors, Sebastian was with me.
yeah,
It was right there, and I had all these memories come back, and it was a long prayer basically to do this, and
yeah,
then I sent it to you over to your house, and you put it on your truck, and now I can see it on your truck,
yes,
and it's really, really very special.
yes, yes, and You're a very special person in my heart, very much.
Well, thank you so much, Natalie. I'm going to put your website again for those of you who want to explore a little bit this wonderful world of photography. And she will lead you to many different adventures, and you will feel what she felt in those moments. It's a real pleasure. And then technically, it's a little bit difficult to do the surprise, but the surprise is that Natalie is actually calling from my kitchen
Yes, I
downstairs right
am.
now. And we're going to now go and get some lunch together. So it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. And I wish you the best for the rest of your trip. And I will see you either in Montreal or back here in New Jersey when you are on your next adventure in the United States safely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.